at that time I was really focused on like, how fast can I go? How much can I do in this sport? And it wasn't until probably 2018 when I won world championships that I started to appreciate the responsibility that comes with that success, and the responsibility that I have to give back to that community, but also to pay it forward.
Hi, Kate. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
How are you doing?
Doing really well. We are in the off season, full swing right now, and we just mentioned before we started recording that I just got married, so kind of enjoying all of that fun off the bike life stuff.
Congratulations. Where did you guys get married?
Thank you. We both grew up in Marin County, and so we ended up getting married on a family farm out in Nicasio nearby. So close to home, big wedding, lots of family in town, and really we threaded the needle between the heat wave and the rainstorm, and got a really perfect day. So very grateful.
By any chance, was riding a part of the wedding?
There was a little bit of riding. I actually rode my bike to the wedding, which our wedding planner did not love. But I was like, Jenna, trust me, I'm a professional. It will be okay. So yes, wedding riding was definitely a part of it. And the bride ride out to the wedding was one of my favorite parts of the day.
Oh, man. The bride ride. I love it. That is cool.
I spent the night before at my family's house and with my childhood best friend, and my dad rode with us out to the farm. So it was kind of a cool moment. And it's nice to have a little time on the bike, kind of making those transitions count.
That is amazing. Congrats. Kate, we're going to rewind a little bit just for our listeners' sake, just to sort of get a little bit of an intro, an overview to you and some of your accomplishments, and then we'll transition to some of the cool stuff you're doing off the bike. But let's start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Marin County. I was born in San Francisco and then was raised out here at the base of Mount Tamalpais, which is famously where mountain biking was actually invented, and the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame is still here. So while I didn't ride a ton growing up, I certainly was raised in a community that has its roots in the outdoors and a lot of active people and opportunities to get out and run and ride. And of course, when I found mountain biking, it felt like it just made sense.
And do you live nearby still?
I do. I live about an hour from where I grew up. I went to school down in Palo Alto at Stanford and stayed close by there. So not too far from home, just enough that my parents have to let me know when they're coming.
You just mentioned Stanford, so I have to ask, what did you study at Stanford?
I studied human biology. And at Stanford, it's a bit of an interdisciplinary degree. So it's a bit of science, but also a lot of the social science side of kind of health and well-being. And my focus was actually global public health and technology innovation. So I'm really interested in ways that technology allows us to live better, healthier lives, and particularly in some places where, there's a higher opportunity for impact.
Interesting. Could you see? I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but had you not discovered the bike and bike racing, what career would you have jumped into right out of college?
It's a really good question, and I think right out of college, I probably had a really good answer for it. But in the time since, I've really, just been a full-time bike racer, and I think at this point, if I were to transition, I'd have to do a little looking around and really be creative about what I would want to do, but definitely something in the health world and probably at that intersection of health and technology.
Interesting. I'm so curious to see where you go next.
Yeah, hopefully I'll go fast enough to keep getting paid to ride my bike for a little while longer. That's a pretty amazing opportunity for me.
That is always fun. So let's talk about the bike. So when was it? I know you're one of the NICA stars of California, but when was it that you discovered the bike? And tell us about that journey, sort of from school into bike into NICA.
Yeah, I would say my first memories riding a mountain bike were, on this tandem mountain bike on Mount Tam with my dad. And there's a few kind of legendary days that we went out on Sundays and got pancakes and, had these kind of what felt like really epic adventures, even though they're probably kind of hour-long rides now. But I just had those very clear memories as a young girl with my dad. And then in high school, I was running cross country, and I was kind of awkward in middle school. I wasn't a great athlete, but I tried really hard, and was finding my place. And I felt like I found it in cross country running, and I was excelling and loved doing it, and started to feel like, wow, endurance sports are really a place that I can do well, but also that kind of bring out the parts of myself that I really liked. And I found that in running, and was looking for a way to cross-train when I joined the high school mountain bike team my freshman year. So I was 15 at the time, and that accelerated very quickly. I started racing through NICA and just found that it was everything I loved about running, the same kind of physical challenge, the endurance mindset, this individual sport where you kind of get back what you put in, but also all of these new things. It's technical, it's tactical. There's an element of freedom and exploration just out on your bike. And I really fell in love with the sport quickly, and started racing and forgot very quickly about running.
So you graduated high school, sort of riding your bike throughout the whole NICA league, right? And then what happened? Tell us, did you immediately get recruited onto a professional bike racing team, or how'd that work?
Yeah, it's interesting looking back because kind of knowing the next chapter of the story always impacts how you look back. And at the time, when I really think about my experience in high school, I had no real exposure to competitive cycling. The only form of competitive cycling I even knew about was the Tour de France. And of course, it's all men and on road bikes. Until now. Now there's women.
Until this year.
But yeah, that was kind of my exposure to competitive cycling. So I didn't really connect what I was doing with NICA to a bigger goal or plan. And I think at the time it was just kind of step by step. We had a really competitive few years in NorCal, the NorCal League of NICA. I remember, my freshman year, I raced JV and won that category. But when I moved up to varsity, it was a long time before I won a race. I would consistently be really battling it out for those top 5 positions. And I think for me, it was both very humbling, but also taught me a lot and kept me focused on the next step. So the next step was, competing at nationals. And then when I was a junior in high school, I had an opportunity to go to a World Cup. And at the time, I think the women that were succeeding in the sport were so much older than me that I didn't necessarily see the pathway from A to B. One of my biggest role models was Leah Davison, and Leah's, quite a bit older than me. She was out of college, and, I'm 15 trying to race internationally and getting my butt kicked a little bit. So I think for me, I didn't necessarily have any kind of grand plan of making it as an elite rider. And I think, in fact, was very aware of how unlikely that would be, given how much further ahead the European riders seemed. And not only that, but that was in the junior category. So by the time I got to college, there was at that point no kind of, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a professional racer. It was more in my mind like a varsity sport where it was this passion. It was something I really cared about. But of course, I also put a lot of time into school and was really focused on that. And I think that started to change around my junior and senior year. I got on a few European podiums in the U23 category, which was, of course, pretty exciting and encouraging to me. But I think my last year in U23 was really when it kind of clicked and changed my prospects a little bit, I would say. I started working with Jim Miller and won the U23 World Cup overall that year. And that meant, taking a bunch of individual wins and also just consistently being competitive and also seeing, wow, we're not that far off the elite lap times. So I think it really was a slow build for me, and I didn't have kind of an idea of where it would go, but it ended up leading me to the opportunity to race full time and really give it a go.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, tell me a little bit about the first time, a pro team, it was specialized, right? That was one of your first teams. How did that recruitment process look like?
Yeah, I raced on a junior development team, whole athlete specialized development team that's actually based in San Anselmo. The team no longer exists, but it was definitely the best development team in the nation when I was coming up through the sport, and luckily was about 5 minutes from where I grew up. And they kind of had a really great relationship with Specialized. At the time that I was transitioning to college, I was starting to race U23 that year, and had the opportunity to join their factory team alongside Leah Davison, which was a huge opportunity for me, not just in terms of support, but also the mentorship and having someone to really, help break me in on the World Cup circuit and give me an idea of what it looks like to be a professional racer.
Yeah. Yeah, we love Leah over here. I want to get her on the show for sure. So Leah, if you're listening, give me a call. Who are some of your other heroes of the sport that you watched?
Yeah, from the past or current heroes. I have a lot currently too.
Let's talk about current ones.
Okay, current heroes. With recent race results in mind, I would say Annemiek van Vleuten, someone that is super inspirational on the road. She's an incredibly talented athlete, which I think, is not something you can debate. But she's also someone that works really hard, and I think does a good job of showing how hard it is to compete at that level. And that when you combine loving what you do with working really hard, you can win even with a broken elbow.
Oh, isn't that incredible?
It's incredible. Yeah, another athlete from my side of things, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot she's obviously the world champion of everything right now. She's had an incredible end to the season, but I think she's also an athlete that shares the truth of what that pursuit is like. And, of course, people love to share a celebration when things work out and you win, but I think she also does a good job of shining a light on the challenges, and that it's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies, and rainbow jersey specifically. But I think she's been a really kind of inspiring rider to me, and also someone that supports the human side of keeping it fun and making sure that you love what you're doing.
Cool. Great talent. We're going to switch to the sprint round in this podcast, where we do a little bit of word association. I'm going to throw out a couple words. You choose one that resonates the most with you or that you have a preference for. This is sort of our way to get the listener to just understand some of the things that, make you happy or motivate you. It's going to be quick. You ready?
All right. I'm ready.
Gloves or gloveless?
Gloveless.
Pancakes or waffles?
Both.
Both together at one sitting?
Both. They're the same food. They're just in different formats.
I know. It's just a different form.
It's just a different format.
Gels or real food?
Real food.
Cold weather or warm weather?
Warm weather.
Rain or snow?
Snow.
Spicy or mild?
Spicy all the way.
Pavement or dirt?
Dirt. That's an easy one.
For sure, that's an easy one. A power meter or perceived effort?
Oh, big time power meter.
Cables or wireless?
Wireless.
Of course.
Come on.
All right.
Know thy audience.
The next segment of this show is titled The Climb. We're sort of pacing out the show to be like a ride, and so we're going to jump into like community and giving back and stuff like that. And Kate, I know from doing a little bit of research and knowing you a little bit that it was the community that first pulled you in, and you have a very strong bone to also give back. And tell us a little bit about some of the community efforts that you're involved in.
Awesome. Yeah, I think cycling is a really unique sport in that we have, our individual communities, but we also have this huge global community. And whether you're a racer or just riding on the weekends or just commuting, I think there's so many people in the world who know the feeling of, getting on a bike and some of the joy and freedom and empowerment that can come from that. And it's certainly something that has shaped my life. It's shaped my career. And hopefully will continue to do so for the rest of my life. But it's also something that I feel really compelled to share, and try to get more people on bikes, try to inspire people to push themselves through cycling. And whether or not it's their career or their primary pursuit, I think it's an incredible tool in life to maintain a healthy lifestyle, to be active, to have a form of self-exploration and reflection, and to, be a better version of yourself every time you get on the bike.
Those are amazing values. Have you thought about, and I kind of know the answer to this, but have you thought about, specifically investing back in the community and how you might do that?
Yeah, it's something that I think is a privilege and also a responsibility as a professional athlete. When I first started riding and racing, I was the beneficiary of a lot of mentorship, support, opportunity, sponsorship. And at that time, I was really focused on like, how fast can I go? How much can I do in this sport? And it wasn't until probably 2018 when I won world championships that I started to appreciate the responsibility that comes with that success, and the responsibility that I have to give back to that community, but also to pay it forward and try to pave the way for the next generation of racers, but also to give that support and mentorship and leadership and inspiration, hopefully to the next generation. And I think with the kinds of platforms we have these days with social media and media in general and coverage specifically of our races, it is kind of a responsibility that you have to take into account. That being said, we also spend much of our year on the road. And even when we're home, this is kind of a 24/7 job. You have to be looking at what you eat, how you're recovering, how you're riding and training all the time, which makes it challenging sometimes to find where giving back fits or like how you can be most effective and still maintain the ability to be competitive. So in that vein, I really try to think about community impact as something that I want to optimize. Like I want to have the most impact possible with the time and energy that I can give while still racing professionally at the top level and trying to inspire people in that way as well. Because, showing an American woman on top, that has a huge impact on young girls who might want to try or be interested in racing. So that is kind of a balance. I think for me, one of the biggest ways that I've been able to do that is through support from my sponsors like SRAM and Scott, who've done the Sparkle On scholarship with me. And that's just one example. I think it's been a really great project that not only supports, first for this year, there's 6 scholars. So it not only supports those 6 individuals, but I think it's kind of signaling that cycling can be a path towards opportunity, not just in the sport, but more generally in your life. And for me, I'd love to support the next generation of racers, and I think that's really important to do. But I also think that for all the kids coming up in NICA, for anyone who's on a bike, the funnel is very tight, and not everyone will end up doing this professionally or have the opportunity to do it professionally. But it can be a way to build self-confidence, to build a skill set that will allow you to succeed in a professional setting or in a collegiate setting, which is the focus of that scholarship, and hopefully allow you to use that as a tool for the rest of your life to connect with other people and to, develop what you need to apply yourself to whatever it is you choose as your primary outlet. So, that was a long answer to that question, but I think it's something I'm still thinking about and learning about and continuing to try to find ways to, get people stoked on riding bikes.
Can you share a success story from the first year of the Sparkle On Scholarship program?
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting is they're all still in college. So I think we're going to have to wait a little while to see how cycling and this scholarship plays a role in their lives. I think one of the things with the scholarship that I'm most proud of this year, in particular, we have 6 athletes, and we have a huge degree of diversity within that group. So we have economic diversity, we have geographic diversity, racial diversity, gender diversity, in all these different ways. And I found that, when we're thinking about empowering people in our community, we want the bike to be accessible to everyone, and we want people to have role models to look towards, that say, "Oh wow, she's doing it, I can too." So I see in this next generation, not only is there that diversity in the types of people that want to ride and the types of riding that they want to do, but with each of those athletes in their application, in the time since, there's a spoken desire to spread that within their community. So, a couple of the applicants have said, I'm an Asian American woman riding bikes, and I want to inspire the next generation of those athletes to be riding. Or we had some gender diversity and transgender participation in cycling is obviously another huge topic that, I think is really important to address in terms of inclusion and making our sport accessible. And yeah, I think that's where I see the kind of biggest opportunity through NICA and through supporting these young athletes is that they are already doing something for their community by participating, but that they have that desire to be role models, to be leaders, and to carve out their own little corner of the sport where they can really make a difference.
Right. That's great. Kate, like every great mountain bike trail has its ups and its downs. There's rocks, there's barriers, there's obstacles, etc. And not everything all the time is always rainbows and butterflies or sparkles, right? There's a lot of challenges in life and in riding, and you've had a couple of those obstacles in your life, right? You've had injuries and whatnot. Can you share some of those obstacles that you've either physically or mentally had to overcome, either on the trail or off the trail?
Yeah, certainly. I think, there's definitely always going to be obstacles in a career. And for me, a lot of those happened in college. That was a really challenging experience to balance those two things. But I would say the biggest, challenge that I faced in my career was actually recent, and it was dealing with the pandemic. I think that impacted different athletes in different ways, and it kind of hit everyone at a different point in their career. I think for a lot of people, they were kind of in a development phase, and it maybe bought them a year to invest in base training, or, athletes who, on the other end, were hoping to retire after the Olympics and then had really tough decisions to make. For me, it was kind of at this inflection point where I had risen, I would say, to the top. In 2019, I won the World Cup overall. I qualified for the Olympics, and I came into the offseason so motivated, and with a really good, plan in place to do well in that 2020 Olympics. And having that curveball really was challenging for me, and it kind of changed the course of the last 2 years. It was something that I think was very disruptive and challenging for me to deal with, but has also allowed me to evolve a ton as an athlete in the last few years, and really as a person as well. And I think, this year, from last year to this year, I made huge strides in terms of being able to be consistent, to be back closer to the front. And I think I still have another big step to go. But more than anything, I think it has taught me to really pay attention to where I get my confidence from, and to build that intentionally and with things that build my self-efficacy, that I can control, that I can build, that I can kind of own for myself. And that includes results. Of course, that includes having big objectives. And of course, I want to win bike races, but I think it has allowed cycling to go back to really what it was at the beginning for me, which was, one, something I love doing and really fun. Two, a big connector, a community builder, and something that puts the people and places that I want to spend time with and in my life. And then three, something that really strengthens my relationship with myself and allows me to learn about myself and to continue to evolve. And that can be done definitely in pursuit of big goals, but it's not a completely results driven focus, I would say.
Yeah. Amazing. Paris 2024. Will we see you there?
Oh, yeah. I hope so.
All goes well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely the next big objective.
That's great. Kate, you've had a bike mechanic, the same bike mechanic supporting you all along the way for many, many years, right? Mm-hmm. How important is that relationship? And can you tell us a little bit about Brad and what he does for you?
Yeah, Brad and I started working together on Specialized a long time ago. He actually was brought onto the team by Leah. And so we all kind of became great friends, and I've ended up working with him since that time. And I think, mechanics are often, standing a little bit in the background. They're not the ones on Red Bull TV waving or Discovery for next year, but they play such an important role, not only in getting your equipment right and allowing you to compete at that level without issues, but also in terms of maintaining kind of a great team atmosphere and environment. And I think everyone that is a part of my team is investing a lot of energy, time, and their kind of emotional resources into this dream that we all have together. And that's a huge responsibility for me to go out and try to deliver on that. But it's also kind of I would say a joy for all of us to do it together when you are really aligned in that vision.
Brad's awesome. I've seen him work, and his dedication to supporting you and the team is amazing.
Absolutely.
Wrapping up here, you've got the Sparkle On Scholarship, which is incredible, which really gives back and empowers, many, many lives. Are there any other causes that the listeners should hear about that you're involved in and that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would say beyond that, my real kind of focus and something that I hope to participate more in the future is just getting more women on bikes. I think when I was growing up, I was the only girl on my NICA team. We had a lot of races internationally and nationally that had 15 girls or 20 girls. And that's really changing. You see so many women out riding and girls as well, starting at a younger age and being able to come into the sport with a lot of experience and skill. So I work with Little Bellas. That was started by Leah and her sister Sabra, and they have chapters all across the country that get really young girls out and teach them life skills and use female mentorship to go far beyond just the cycling skills. And then I also work quite a bit with NICA through their GRIT program. That's the Girls Riding Together program. And they, I think, really go to the next level with girls that are in high school and are ready to take on a bit more ownership and to become leaders within their communities. So those are a couple of the organizations that I'm most involved with, and hopefully continue to work with them in the future.
Those are great. And we'll put the detail in the show notes, but if for our listeners out there, if somebody wanted to get involved with either NICA, GRIT, Little Bellas, or Sparkle On, where would they find information about those programs?
Yeah, usually just the organization websites, I think, are going to be the easiest. But I also I think it's nationalmtb.org, and then Little Bellas, it might be Little Bellas MTB. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to lie.
All right, we'll put the specifics in the show notes. What about Sparkle On? You must know that one.
That one I know. There is a page on NICA's website about it, and then some information on my own Instagram and website about it.
And what if someone follow you on Instagram? What's that handle?
It's Kate plus Fate.
Kate plus Fate. All right. Well, Kate, that's about it on time for us today. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I also want to congratulate you on your most recent engagement and wedding. That's super exciting, and I know everyone's excited for you and looking for great things for you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Have a good one.